Hey guys, it's Chris here from Chris's Creative Life, and I design workshops that help you create beautiful projects from start to finish with easy to follow guides. Okay, so I'm gonna create a card today with the stamp of the month for March. I'm actually gonna add my desk in here so you can actually see what I'm talking about. So I thought I would just come on today and I'm going to create this card that I designed with the stamp of the month for March, which is called Precious Moments. And it is so stinking cute. So I love all of the stamp sets that this artist designs for close to my heart. So they're the super cute little animals, and then their sentiments. So you can add this to a qualifying order. Hello. When your order reaches a certain amount, you can order it for a discounted amount. Or if you're a VIP, every month you qualify for a free stamp of the month when your order reaches a certain amount. And this one is so stinking cute. So I designed this card and we're going to create it today. So just give me 1 second here. And so the other thing is, you guys see me do it all the time. You've seen reels and all of those kind of things where I show, like I always do like a coloring sheet. So you can see here I've started doing my coloring sheet, but quite often also at the same time when I'm doing it, you'll see that I bring into I always use like my coloring guide, sample coloring guide here. And it's quite simple what it is, but I've taken each of the tri-blend markers and I've colored the 3 shades. So right here we go. Like for example, this is the tan blend. So I've printed it on cardstock because that's what I color with, right? I would be coloring on cardstock. And so I've just done like the light shade, the medium shade, and the darkest shade, right? Because the tri-blends, that's the whole thing about them, is they're 3 different shades. So I created a new version of like an updated version of the coloring sheet. So if you guys want the coloring sheets, if you comment sheet, I'll come back and I'll add the link after. Or if you click on the link in the description, it is actually there, so you can just grab it if you would like. Okay, so let me just, okay. So like I said, I've updated the sheet, and you guys quite often always see me because I kind of want to know exactly what the colors look like versus the end of the marker or the middle of the marker, or if I'm going to color and shade with it, right? What it'll actually look like and all of those things. So the download is just a sheet like this. And so I do actually recommend when you do it, I printed mine out on cardstock. I don't have a hard time getting cardstock to go through my printer. It's not crazy thick to the point, like you can see, it'll bend, right? So this is just a piece of white daisy that I've cut down to 8.5 by 11 because I keep like a binder sheet with all my coloring or different ways or things that I want to do with a stamp set. I always find quite often when I get a new stamp set, the first thing I do is I'll pull out the 8.5 by 11 and I'll stamp it. And I always like, I mark it with the stamp set number and the name. I will also stamp the sentiments too, just so that, like, because sometimes when you look at a sentiment, it looks different when it's stamped than on a piece of paper. And yes, so that sheet's such a good idea. I always use a scrap piece of paper to check my colors. Right, and so that's what I constantly am doing, right? So but by this, you can kind of see, oh, okay, well, if I want, like here's your green section, right? So you can kind of tell which green you might like to use with another color. I'm not sure if that, hey gang, I'm not sure if that really makes sense, but like if you want a warm color or a cold color, you're going to get a lot more of that than off the end of your marker, right? So like I said, I did do mine on cardstock because that's what I'm going to color on as my end result. So I always put it on cardstock. So, okay, that's my like little spiel. So if you want the sheet, like I said, just comment sheet and I'll come back and I'll add the link. Or like I said, it is in the description above. Okay, so then I always do a practice sheet, but more so just for me to get kind of my creative ideas flowing. I find that that works really well versus, because what I used to do was I would stamp them all on like a scrap piece of paper, and then I would play around with coloring them. And then I would have like 800 little scraps of pieces of paper around and never remember what went with what. So this just for me is really handy. I can throw it in like a page protector or into my binder, and I keep them all together, and then I have them for a reference too. So quite often I always will start coloring with tri-blends because those are my favorite. That's what one of the mediums I really like to use. But then, and this is, I kind of just picked a color palette, right? Oh, thank you. So I kind of just picked a color palette to play with. So I'll always, my first one, I'll always color with tri-blends. And then like, so with the koala, I might pick a second, do him in gray again to see if I like a different kind of version of him. And then I will go, and from there, I will play with like pencil crayons, or if the stamp set is like suited for it, then I might play with watercolor pencils, like all of those things. So I always find this super handy as a starting point. I also find it super handy because you kind of get a gauge of how big your stamp is. Like it's fine and dandy to look at it like this and then think, okay, well, I'm going to do like a slimline card. Let's just throw a few of these guys on here, versus like I actually can measure this. It's stamped. I know if I want to put it on a panel that it'll fit, like all of those kind of things. So like I said, I did design a card, and I'm gonna create it again today. So we're just gonna do some basic coloring. I did like go crazy with these guys because they're just stinking cute all on their own. And while I am coloring and all of that fun stuff, I will answer any questions about Chris's All Access Pass if you have them. I did launch that this week, so that's kind of what's been going on, and why at certain points I'm quieter than normal, because there's a lot of stuff happening in the background. Okay, so I did actually grab a card base right before I started because I thought, oh, I don't have a card base, but I don't see it. So I know they're so cute, the little just portions of them. I thought it would make a cute slimline too, but I guess I didn't grab the card base in the end. So, and that's the other thing with the little tiny panels. Sorry, I had to grab that. You don't forget, you don't necessarily have to stamp the whole image or use a whole image on a card, right? So I thought too, maybe I'll do it a different day. They would all look super cute along a slimline card this way in little panels, right? So maybe we'll do a slimline next time. But okay, so but we're going to do an A2 size card today. So I just have my A2 size card. Like I said, I picked out my palette before. And just going to fold my card base. I even have an envelope, even though I don't need it yet. So hey everyone. So here we go. Okay, I'm gonna have to be conscious because I'm gonna try and stay sitting down today. I've been like literally standing up in my office all day today. So, and yes, I'm sure everybody in Australia loves the little characters, right? So, like I said, this artist that does the cutesy little animals is for sure my favorite. So I am going to use, or I cut a panel to the same size as my card front, and I ran it through the embossing folder, and my embossing folder is here. Just gonna move that up there so I have a little bit of room. I did pre-stamp my little guys because I knew I was going to use markers, and you can kind of do it two different ways. The first one, when I actually created the card, I stamped them and then cut them down. But for these guys, I actually, because I knew what size pieces I wanted, I cut them and then I stamped my guys so that I could kind of figure out how I wanted him to kind of hang off my little piece of paper. So I do believe, let me grab my ruler, but these are all 1.5 by 1 3/4, I think. But let me just grab my ruler. There's like a lot of stuff going on behind me, as always. So I did emboss the background with the Sunbeam embossing folder. It's from the annual idea book, and it is just really pretty. You could totally take some sandpaper to this to expose the white core. Why don't we just do that? I have a nail file here. So I just ran it through my embossing folder. So we'll make two that are just slightly different. So I'm just going to, and you could even do this like in phases. So I know it's not going to show up really well on camera, but you could just do the middle. Or, KK says, we have different kangaroos, Eastern Gray, Big Reds, Black Rock, just to help with the coloring. I actually did that. So last time when we had a stamp set that had a kangaroo, I did color them differently. I always kind of like try and look up an image to see what it actually should look like. But okay, so let's finish here. So I'm gonna, so that you can see the difference, right? You can really see those dots. I actually quite like that. So this is just, I just have a nail file. So I'm just going, because those little dots just stick up. And you could do it as much or as little as you want. But see? So now we'll just have a second one that looks just a little bit different. You could distress your edges. And this is just literally a nail file. So if I'm going to distress this piece, I think we might distress them all. Nothing like just kind of winging it along the way. So if anybody has specific questions that they wanted to ask me about All Access Pass, I'm more than happy to answer them. But basically I have launched, sorry, it's going to make the camera bumpy there for a second. A new subscription level for anybody that wants access to all of my workshop guides. Up till now, you've been able to subscribe to the club, which included all of my workshops from the seasonal idea book, because at least that was consistent. We knew how many were coming, all of those kind of things. So I knew the workshops I would be creating. I obviously create way more workshops than that. So people have always asked me for a way to have access to everything. So that's why I created the All Access Pass. So it's you get access to all of my workshops from the day you join until like going forward. It's not all of my past workshops because there's like over, I do believe I'm almost sitting at like 300 in there now. So, but you have access to everything from the day you joined going forward. And so I think I like that. Okay, so let's do a little bit of coloring here. I'm going to stick, I think, with the same color palette because, like I said, I liked it. And I obviously picked my background colors and all of those kind of things. I'm going to put them on this green piece of cardstock so you can see how I'm going to color them. So at the top, I did stamp the little thank you bunches, and then we've got a hedgehog. And then we've got the little hedgehog with the pretty flower here. And then we're going to do the little koala at the bottom. So I can, and I did use intense black ink because I'm going to color with my tri-blends. Like I said, if you want the sheet for coloring, just make sure to comment sheet and I will come back. So I'm going to pull up my little coloring sheet here so that we use the same colors. That's also super handy too, right? Because just a sec, sorry. Okay, now it stopped. So lots of times too, I used to color something and then never remember what I colored it with. And then I had to try and go and remember which brown it was. So like, that's why I've started to kind of keep the notes so that once I pick kind of a color palette that I liked, then I can just go back, use those colors again and color my images the same. Okay, so I did do the basket with gold brown blend. So I'm going to go over, I might move you just down a little bit here. So the problem is what happens if I go too close. Is that, oh, it's locked. There we go. Okay, then I have a hard time staying on the screen. Okay, so I'm going to go, and I actually did these two guys differently, even like one from the other. And I'm going to go with my medium and I'm going to run it over the little, oh, just a sec. Okay, so like here where all those little pieces would be like the wicker of the basket, I'm going to run the medium over that first. And then I know that there is like the little rim of the basket underneath there. So I did my medium there. And then I'm going to take my light marker and just run over the whole basket. Just like that. And like super honestly, the tri-blend markers make it so easy that you don't really have to worry too much about it. So then for all of my greenery, I did use Alpine Green, and I'm gonna, I think, no, I'll use the light. I was gonna darken it up a little bit, but I didn't change the colors for my card. So there. And while I have my green out, I can just do the stem because there's so little green. Like, how stinking cute is that? Okay, so for my flowers in my basket, well, let's do the koala. So I picked brown gray, and I'm gonna go with my medium first. This little design, you could totally adapt it for so many different things. Oh, so cute. Oh, and underneath his bottom arm here, I'm going to do the medium because that's the dark spot. And now so you can join the All Access Pass. And like I said, it is a monthly subscription program. And if you find that it's just not for you, you can totally cancel. But at that point, then you stop obviously receiving workshop guides. So, and when you join, you get an email telling you to join the Facebook group. And then I'm going to, let's do some pale pink for his cheeks and ears. It's a boy, I've decided already. I'm going to do the medium. And you get to pick one of my most recent workshops also as kind of like a fun little bonus. Okay, I'm going to do also the butterfly at this point. So I have the medium, and then I'm going to go in with the dark. And this is the pale pink, and I used it on like all of their cheeks, as well as like some of the other parts. So, okay, now we're going to do the little orange in the flower, and it is burnt orange. And again, I've been actually hanging out in the mediums a lot lately, like the mid-tones. So, and then I'm just gonna, this is such a small space, and that's the nice thing about these images too, is that they're kind of fun to color because it's not like a huge amount that you actually have to color. Okay, so I'm going to do some of the flowers in the basket now, orange. And then I did the centers of the flowers with citrus. So I'll come back. And then I do have lavender as the purple color too. So... oh, I did some pink flowers too up there. So I'll just quickly do my centers with the citrus. This one's kind of off the page, but okay. And then I'll do some pale pink ones. So this little round one up here, and this little one over here. This would look super cute too if you added like stickles or shimmer brush on the flowers. So now we're going to use, sorry, it's not lavender. I used pink violet. So see, that's why it's important to write it down, because I was totally wrong. So pink violet blend. But you could totally, obviously, change your color palette depending on what you have or how you want to color them. I'm just going to make these leaves. I'm not really sure what they are, but okay. So then I'm going in again with medium. I am very much like, I really like the light of all of the tri-blend markers, but I am trying to get better at using all my different shades because I have them. The sheet is also nice because when you color it, then you know you have that color. So in case you want to build them slowly, you totally can. So there we go with the mid. And now I'm going to do light around the edges and blending them together. And then I'm going to throw like the darkest in there too, right around the center, because the flower is a little bit bigger than, obviously, than those little tiny flowers. Okay, so now I'm just going to use the darkest and just use it a little bit right around the bottom and then over some of these lines, and it'll just give it just a little bit more even dimension. So just like that. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the gold brown blend and color our hedgehog. So I'm going to go with the darkest around his hands. This one I'm going to do slightly different, but, and then through his little quills, I'm going to run this color almost like a halo. Okay, just like that. And like I said, you can see how quickly, because they're small images, you can color them super quickly. And then I can just do the lightest here around the middle and kind of blend it together. Oh, so cute. And then I'm going to give him just a little bit of color on his cheeks, just with the mid. Because they're supposed to be like characters, right? Not like really like actual representations of their animal cells. So there we go. And then I'll just do this other one and then we can put it all together. So same thing, because I want them to be similar, right? Because they're on the same card base. So I'm going to do her hands and her little quills the same. So like right across the dark edge there. Okay, and then same thing, I'll go with my mid. And then I will go in with the lightest one on this one too. So you guys are going to hear me talk about the All Access Pass a lot in the next little while, because Also, too, when you join, one of the things is you are grandfathered into that price. So at some point, the price will change, but you stay with the price you join at. So that is always good. And it is totally, I did it because people asked all the time. And so I just decided, okay, we're just going to figure it out and go from there. So then I'll add the cheek in here, and that will blend out a little bit there. So one of the other things I do too is, I'm not going to really be able to see. Maybe I can do this. So I have my little trays here with my markers. And so I stack my markers in the same order that they are on the marker sheet, so that when I'm going to put them away and stuff, this is exactly how my markers look. So I know exactly where to put them back all the time. And so I get really good at knowing what I'm grabbing. So my trays look exactly the same as the sheet. And like I said, the sheet is available if you want it. You can either click on the link in the description or comment sheet, and I'll come back. So then it also takes like next to no time to clean up too, which is always nice. Okay, so now we can put our card together. So we have our 3 little images that are colored. I'll move this sheet out of the way. So it's the Sunbeam embossing folder, and I sanded the front. So we now have this fun look here. And I think I'm going to sand the edges of the other pieces too. So the black is like 2 1/4 by 5 1/2. And so this is not black core. This is the white core piece. And I'm just going to distress it a little bit. Okay. So we're going to add that on there. And then I have a piece of Lagoon, and this one is 2 by 5 1/2, and same thing. And then I think I'm going to sponge the edges of these. So too, one of the other things I wanted to show you was that, like, just by changing a few things up, right, you get a different card. So you don't have to always do like 25 cards the same, even though I'm using the same basic sketch, right? I'm just going to grab Mink ink, and I'm going to sponge the edges of my little characters. So I just have a little tiny piece of sponge. You could also do black if you wanted it to stand out more, but I'm just going to do Mink. And obviously, like, the only thing I did differently was I'm distressing these ones. You could totally change the color palette. You could make them on pattern papers versus cardstock, and they would all look different too. Okay, so there we go. Now all we have to do is literally assemble the card. See how fast that was? Okay, so I think I'm going to keep all my measurements exactly the same, but you could totally add it on the other side of the card. Lots of different ways you could put the same pattern together. There we go. And then I'll add my lagoon, and I'm gonna, just because I like the dimension, I'm going to add all of my little panels on 3D foam. So just have those nice little white edges. And you can just see the slight difference. Okay, I'm going to add my foam. I always add the foam first and then add them. Like, I add all my foam at the same time is what I mean. Not really. Obviously, you have to add the foam before you add them to the card. These ones just have thin 3D foam. These ones I'm going to add thick 3D foam, or like regular. So there we go. Okay, so I know, right, I want this one in the middle and then the other two spaced on either side of it. So I'm going to add, they're actually not bad. I'm going to I have not pushed anything down yet. I'm going to turn it sideways, which I know is super weird for you guys, but I can just see it a little bit better. So you could also space these out farther or closer together. You could make your panels a little bit bigger. I liked them because I wanted them all to be kind of just hanging off the panels a little bit. And I didn't even add any embellishments to this. You could totally add dots or sparkles or sequins, any of the things would really be cute on the card. But like I said, I didn't add anything, and I thought it turned out like it looks super cute, just like that. There we go. So maybe we'll even add a little bit of clear shimmer brush to this one. So like I said, there's so many ways to take one thing and alter it and switch it up. I'm feeling, so I just shook up my shimmer brush so that I had glitter running through my brush. I'm going to add it on the butterfly at the top, on this one, and then the flowers down here in the basket too. There we go. So that is how you can take one card with the stamp of the month and create something just a little bit different even. Okay, so don't forget, if you want the coloring sheet, I do recommend that you print it out on cardstock. If cardstock will go through your printer, just comment sheet or click on the link in the description above and I'll come back and attach the link. So I hope you guys have fun coloring, because it is one of my favorite things to do, and have some fun with the Precious Moments stamp set, which is the stamp set for the month of March, the stamp of the month for the month of March. So I hope you guys all have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later. Bye bye, guys.